Okay, so this equation can be solved in a somewhat easy manner, but most students are going to select the harder way to solve this equation. And of course, we have fractions, and this is going to be a lot of work, especially for those of you that select the hard way, which will be the majority of you. But who knows, maybe you will do this in a much easier way. Of course, the objective here is to solve this linear equation, i.e. to solve for the variable x. And this is an extra bonus because we have fractions, so this is going to be a lot of fun. Now, if you could figure this out, if you could solve this equation, go ahead and put your answer into the comment section. I'll show you the correct answer here in just 1 second. Then I'm going to solve this equation in two ways. I'm going to first show you the hard way, and then I'm going to show you the much easier approach, and that is the approach that you want to learn. And if you are taking any sort of algebra course, you're certainly going to have to be able to solve equations like this. But before we get started, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is John, and I have been teaching middle and high school math for decades. And it really is my true passion to try to make learning math as easy as possible. So if you need assistance in mathematics, check out my math help program at tcmathacademy.com. You can find a link to that in the description below. And if this video helps you out, don't forget to like and subscribe, as that definitely helps me out. Okay, so you can see the equation here. Again, we want to solve for the variable x. And this is going to take a good amount of work. All right, so if you want to do this, give yourself a minute or two and certainly show all your work, all the steps, because this particular problem, like a lot of equations and just math in general, it's easy to make an error. But let's go ahead and take a look at the answer right now. So the correct answer is x is equal to -2. Okay, so how'd you do? Well, if you got this right, whether you took the easy path or the hard path, especially if you were able to kind of do this the hard way and got this solution, that is fantastic. Matter of fact, I'm going to give you a nice little happy face, an A++, a 120%, and multiple stars so you can brag to your friends and family that indeed you are a certified professional expert in the area of solving linear equations with fractions. That just sounds so impressive. They really won't know what that means, but just sounds pretty cool to say. So great job. Okay, typically I don't give over 100%, but in this particular problem, you definitely had to show a lot of strong math skills because we are dealing with fractions, et cetera, right? So there's kind of a decent amount of moving parts, and clearly anyone who was able to solve this was able to kind of keep control of the problem. Now, before we start here, I want to emphasize that when you have an equation to solve, you really want to take it step by step by step by step and double check as you go. In other words, kind of grade yourself because if you make an error right here, okay, if you can catch it, that's going to definitely save all these extra steps. All these steps here, I've seen this happen thousands, tens of thousands of times where a student will make a little error here. The work they do from that point forward is correct. The work they did previous to that is correct, but this little error is going to cause the wrong answer. Okay, so the key to really managing a problem that takes a lot of different steps is to grade yourself as you go. And the only way you can do that is to be neat, organized, structured, and just take your time. All right, this stuff is a lot of work. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this right now. As promised, I'm going to do this problem the hard way, and then I'm going to show you a much easier way, and that is the way that you want to approach equations with fractions. And that's kind of really the big picture topic of this video. Now, I'm going to do this problem. There is quite a bit of steps, and I already did the problem. I'm not going to explain all the steps involved. I mean, I will quickly explain them. But if you are struggling with this level of mathematics, you may want to check out my pre-algebra or algebra 1 course. I'll leave links to those in the description of this video because there is a lot of things. Also, if you're struggling with fractions, I have a ton of additional videos on fractions on my YouTube channel. Plus, you might want to check out my Math Foundations course. I go over all basic math to include fractions as well. So we're going to be using all these skills in this problem, and I'm going to be going somewhat yeah, it's somewhat fast. I'm going to try to take my time because we have a lot of steps to cover. Okay, so here we go. And again, if you don't understand anything, just make a note of it and check out those recommendations those suggestions, excuse me, that I said. Okay, so here we go. All right, so here is our equation, and we first need to recognize that we have parentheses here. Okay, so this is a scenario where we need to use the distributive property. And you always want to use, if you have any areas in your equation that require the use of the distributive property, that's what you want to do first. Okay, and again, you'll recognize that because you'll have parentheses here and a number outside of those parentheses. So that's step number one. So we're going to go ahead and take this 3/2. I'm going to distribute it to these terms inside of the parentheses. So 3/2 times x gives me 3/2 x, and then 3/2 times 4 gives me 6. Okay, so again, you need to know fractions. So we're multiplying fractions, right? So 3/2 times 4, or 4 over 1. So that's 3 times 12. You can kind of do a little bit of mental math here. Or so 3 times 4 is 12. That divided by 2 is 6. Okay, now if you need to kind of go over here to the side and do that work like this. By the way, too, I would assume that, yeah, you can use a calculator, but this is a problem that's definitely can be solved without the aid of a calculator. Okay, so again, I'm going to be going somewhat quick, and if you don't understand anything what I'm doing with fractions, you're going to have to follow up. Okay, so let's take a look at this side. We're going to have 5 minus, you have to take this negative 1/3. By the way, this negative sign is with this 1/3. You can think of this as plus and negative. So negative 1/3 times this 4 is negative 4/3. And then negative 1/3 times a negative x is a positive, right? Negative times negative is positive, positive 1/3 x. Okay, so that's just the first step in this harder approach, but we have many more steps to cover. All right, now what do we need to do before we start moving variables and numbers to either side of the equation? Remember, when you're solving a linear equation, what we want to do is get all the variables on the left and all the numbers on the right. But we don't want to do that just yet until we clean up both sides of the equation. So on this side, we just have a variable term and a number, but over here, we have 5 minus 4/3. We can clean this up. So let's go ahead and figure out what 5 minus 4/3 is equal to. Okay, so we're talking about subtracting fractions. We need to have the denominators the same. So I have 1 and 3. Of course, 5 can be written as 5 over 1. So I need to rewrite this such that we have the LCD. So we're going to multiply this fraction here by 3, both the top and bottom. So we're going to get 3/15. Again, if you do not understand what I'm doing, you need to work on your fractions. Okay, so this is going to be 15 over 3 minus 4/3. So we have the same denominator, so we're going to subtract the numerators. 15 minus 4 is 11. So this is 11/3 right here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take another step. And by the way, too, when you're doing some of this scrap work or side work here, you could do it off to the side or on another piece of paper, or you can do it midway in the work, but kind of the middle of your steps, if you will. But you need to kind of show the picture because, again, if you make an error and you're like, okay, where did I go wrong? Oh, I subtracted these fractions incorrectly. That's where you need to work on, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and now put the result of that there. All right, so now here is where we're at. We have 3/2 x plus, I don't know if I said 2/3, but if I did, I apologize. 3/2 x plus 6 is equal to 11/3 plus 1/3 x. Now, a little thing just kind of popped into my head. I am saying a lot at real time, so if I misspeak in any ways, but it's clear, what I'm trying to say, just please forgive me and cut me a little slack. That would be appreciated. Okay, so let's focus on what we need to do now. Okay, so here we have a variable term. We want variables on the left. Okay, we want numbers on the right. So this number here, this 6, needs to go over here. We got to link that up with this 11/3, and this 1/3 x needs to come way over here with this 3/2 x. Okay, so we're just going to start moving these things over now, one at a time. And there's nothing else to do because we simplified both the left-hand, right-hand side of the equation. So let's go ahead and move this 1/3 x. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, we're just simply going to subtract 1/3 x from both sides of the equation. Remember, that's the golden rule of algebra. Whatever you do to one side, as long as you do it equally to the other side, you are okay to do that particular operation. So look at the format that I'm doing this though, okay? You basically want to make your work look just like mine, okay? This kind of stylist or style of writing out the steps to this equation. You could put this minus 1/3 x right here, but what ends up happening is with bigger equations, you're kind of expanding your work horizontally, if you will, and you can kind of squeeze your way out of the your paper. Okay, you'll run out of room. So kind of work in a vertical manner like this. All right, so now let's just start on. Typically, we're going to go this way, but let's just start this way here. So 1/3 x plus negative 1/3 x is 0. And then I have 11 thirds, okay, plus nothing will be 11 thirds. 6 plus nothing is 6. Now here, I got to figure this out. 3/2 x minus 1/3 x. Again, I have another opportunity to work with fractions. And this is the kind of the main point of this problem that I'm doing is students don't like fractions. They're just like, I hate doing this stuff. This is why I don't like math, especially fractions. Well, I get that. And if you just hold on for a little bit more, I'll show you an easier way so you can reduce the headaches working with fractions. Okay, so hey, listen, we want to work smarter and not harder. But at this point, though, we still need to figure out what 3/2 minus 1/3 is, right? Because we have the same variable x. These are like terms. So we're going to have to do some more fraction work. Let's go ahead and do that now. So 3/2 minus 1/3. Here, we're going to have to find the LCD. Of course, that is 6. So we're going to have to change this fraction, 3/2, such that it has a denominator of 6. We're going to multiply both the numerator and denominator by 3. So that's going to give us 9 over 6, right? So right here, and then this one, we're going to have to multiply both the numerator and denominator by 2 to get a 6 as LCDs, and we'll end up with 2 over 6. Now we can subtract these fractions, right? Same denominator, that's 6. 9 minus 2 is 7/6. All right, so we're still got more work to do, okay? I told you this was going to be the hard way, but let's keep it going. So 7/6, that is the result of 3/2 x minus 1/3 x is 7 over 6x. Okay, so here is the result, right? So when I did this work, we got 7 over 6x. 6 plus nothing is 6. And we got 11 third plus nothing is 11 third. And then, of course, this 1/3 x minus 1/3 x minus 1/3 x is 0. So we are at this point in the equation. Okay, so we're looking pretty good. What do we need to do now? Well, we need to move this 6 over to the other side. And again, we have another opportunity to add and subtract fractions. How wonderful is that? So we're going to have to subtract 6 from both sides. And now we're going to have to figure out what 11 thirds minus 6 is equal to. So I know a lot of you are exacerbated at this point. You're just like, man, this is too much. Listen, let's just get through doing this problem the hard way. And just, think of this as a lot of practice for your fraction skills. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this now. We're subtracting 6 from both sides of the equation. So let's go ahead and do this work. 11 thirds minus 6, or 6 over 1. Okay, so this is the way that problem is going to look. And again, we need the same denominator, lowest common denominator. So this is 3, this is 1. So what we need to do here is multiply this denominator by 3, so we can have a lowest common denominator of 3. So we have to multiply the numerator by 3, so this is going to be 11 thirds minus 6 times 3 is 18 thirds. Okay, so very carefully here, now that we have the same denominator, which is 3, we need to subtract the numerator. So 11 minus 18 is negative 7. Okay, so we are still not done. Okay, continuing on, we just figured out what 11 thirds minus 6 is. So now our problem is 7/6x is equal to negative 7 thirds. Okay, almost there. Let's go ahead and press forward. So how do we solve for x? Well, most of you would say, well, don't we need to divide both sides of the equation by 7/6? Well, yes, that is true, but hopefully, okay, your algebra skills are such that you say, you know what, the easiest way here to solve for x, because we have a fraction coefficient, is to simply flip this thing upside down and multiply both sides of the equation by this reciprocal. okay? Because 6 over 7, when we multiply it by 7 over 6, this is going to give us a 1x or x, okay? And again, remember in algebra, whatever we do to one side of the equation, as long as we do it to the other side, we are okay. Okay, so that's what we need to do. We need to multiply both sides of the equation by 6 over 7. Let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, so 6 over 7 times 7 over 6 is going to be 1x or x. That is what we're looking for, the solution. And then right here, we have negative 7 over 3 times 6 over 7. This 7 will cross cancel with this 7, okay? If you need to break this down and look at it as negative 7 over 6 over 3 times 7. Remember, when you are multiplying fractions, you just simply multiply the respective numerators and denominators, but somebody out there hopefully could just see it, I'm cross-canceling this way, but let's kind of look at the product in this manner. So 7's cross-cancel, and then 3 goes into 6 too, so that leaves our final answer as negative 2. So x is equal to negative 2, and that is it. Okay, so if you were able to do this, that is definitely, that is not only just a happy face, that is a happy face with a good old 1984 Mohawk haircut. I thought that was pretty cool. I was in high school during that time, and I'll tell you something, it was pretty cool to have. I didn't have a Mohawk haircut, but those folks that did, I was like, you know what, that's pretty cool. Anyways, very impressive indeed, just like your ability to solve this problem. So if you were able to do this, okay, that is fantastic. However, you did take the long road, and you don't want to take the long road necessarily, because here's the deal. One, this problem took a good amount of time. All right, here's our starting point, here's our ending point. And if you take the long road, what ends up happening is you're giving yourself more opportunities to make a mistake. One, it's taking more time for like tests or quizzes. So, you need to, do a lot of these different type of problems and listen to someone like myself so you can develop techniques and kind of have a better situational awareness to be like, you know what, there's a much better way to handle this problem, and I'm going to show you that right now. But before I show you that, the easy way here, I want you to do something that's so easy that will have a tremendous positive impact on my YouTube channel, and that is to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. This really has a big positive impact again on my channel. I've been on YouTube for many years. You'll find a couple thousand videos so far, from basic math to advanced math like calculus and everything in between. And those of you that watch my videos, I consider you as my students. Okay, I am obsessed with teaching mathematics, so I put a lot of effort into trying to teach this stuff in a way where you can truly benefit from any video that you watch of mine. Okay, that is my goal. So now let's move on to the easy way to do this equation. All right, so here is the main idea. When you're looking at any equation in algebra, especially a linear equation is where you have a single variable to the first power. You're not dealing with like x squared, you're just dealing with an x or a y. So this is a big topic, and what we're kind of discussing here is mastering basic equation solving. All right, this is basic algebra. So the main idea is when you scan this equation, we have a linear equation, we have fractions, okay? We're like, here, I got a fraction here, I got a fraction here, and I don't want to deal with fractions. For me, I get like, kind of sad. I'm like, I got to deal with fractions. That's just like a lot of extra work. So you don't have to deal with as much fraction work as we just did if you do the following thing, okay? And I'm going to tell you what that is right now. So again, you're scanning your equation, you see these fractions, you're like, nope, I'm not dealing with fractions. So what you can do and what you should do is clear the fractions away in one move, okay, before we do anything else. So how can we clear fractions away in an equation with fractions? Well, what we need to do is get the lowest common denominator of all the fractions involved in the problem. So let's go through this real quick. So we have 3 halves, so here 2 is our denominator. So you might be thinking, well, what's x plus 4? Well, technically that's over 1, so this is the denominator of 1. 5 is 5 over 1, that's its denominator. Here we have a 3, and then we have 4 minus x over 1. So really, what we need to do is find the LCD where we have fractions, the denominators as 2 and 3. And you could see here the lowest common denominator. If I was trying to do 1/2 plus 1/3, okay, the LCD is 6. So you need to get the LCD. Again, if you need help with any of this stuff, fraction stuff, I've given you my suggested resources. So once you have the LCD, what we're going to do is take that LCD and we're going to multiply it by the entire equation, okay? So here it is right here. Here is our LCD, and you're going to multiply both sides of the equation by the LCD. In other words, all the terms that are in the equation. Remember that you're not breaking anything algebraically. So as long as you multiply an equation, both sides of the equation by the same value, you are not breaking the equation. But here we're doing this little trick so we can get rid of the fractions right off the bat. Okay. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this now. So 6 times 3/2. Okay. So that's 6 over 1, right? So 6 times 3 is 18. 18 divided by 2 is 9. Okay, so hopefully if you need to write this off to the side to see what I just did. So that's what this is equal to. Okay, now that's this side of the equation. So now let's go ahead and start multiplying it by this term here. Now this is a product, so I don't have to multiply this 6 times this. It's just 6 times this 3/2. So 6 times this 5 is 30. That's super easy. 6 times negative 1/3 is what? Well, again, 3 goes into 6 too, so this is going to be a negative 2, right? Or you can just go, 6 times negative 1/3. If you have to do it this way, that's perfectly fine, just so you can see that that's negative 2. And again, this is a product, so this is it. Okay, we just took our LCD and we converted our equation or rewrote it where we have no fractions. So this is definitely cause for celebration. So if I gave most of you this equation, it would be so much easier to solve than the previous equation. So now let's go ahead and do the remainder of the work to solve this equation. Again, this is the only fraction work that we had to do once we had the LCD. Now we're off to the races. Okay, so here we're going to take this 9. We're going to use the distributive property. 9 times x is 9x. 9 times 4 is 36. And I have 30 minus 2 times 4 minus x. Again, we're going to do the distributive property first. So this is negative 2 times 4, negative 8, and then negative 2 times this, I'm sorry, negative 2 times 4 minus x, excuse me. So negative 2 times 4, again, negative 8, negative 2 times negative x is positive 2x. Again, if I misspeak, I apologize, but you can kind of see what I'm talking about just by the work I am doing. Okay, so we took care of the distributive property. So we're looking pretty good. We have no fractions. Everything is going pretty smooth. So now we're going to clean up both sides. And right here, we have two numbers. We can easily clean this up. So 30 minus 8 is going to be 22. Okay, so we have 9x plus 36 is equal to 22 plus 2x. So now we need to start moving the variables over to the left and the numbers over to the right. We will start with the variables first. So we'll move that 2x over. So we're going to subtract 2x from both sides of the equation and then add down in a column manner. So 9x minus 2x is 7x plus 36 plus 0 is 36. 22 plus nothing is 22. And 2x minus 2x is 0. That goes away. So we are down to here. 7x plus 36 is equal to 22. So we're almost there. Now we just need to go ahead and subtract 36 from both sides of the equation. We can see that work here. So again, we're adding down. So 36 minus 7x plus nothing is 7x. 36 minus 36 is 0. And 22 minus 36, we've got to be careful here. We're going to end up with a negative value is negative 14. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and divide both sides of the equation by 7 to get our variable x. So negative 14 divided by 7 is negative 2. Now we are done and we are so much happier because this was far easier. Okay, I did not have to do all that fraction work. Okay, and all that, any amount of work. If you look here, I mean, there's still work to be done. I'm not saying that you can go from no work, a bunch of work to no work. But when you are dealing with fractions, okay, you really want to not deal with fractions, okay, as much as possible. You can see here, every time you have to find the LCD and rewrite fractions, the more work you do, it's going to take up more time and you're going to really increase your odds of making a mistake, even if you know what you're doing. Okay. So, again, you're only going to learn this stuff through experience. So, how do you get better at algebra or mathematics? Well, there's basically two ways, okay? These two steps. One, you need to get great instruction, clear and understandable and comprehensive instruction. That's what I'm passionate about. It's like, hey, let me teach you the right way up front, okay? If you're paying attention, taking notes, and you are actually going to follow through on what I'm going to tell you, or basically the techniques and procedures to solve an equation, for example, that's the first step. You got to get great instruction first, okay, and comprehensive instruction. Then the next thing is it's up to you from this point forward whether you're going to get great at math because you have to practice, 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 practice. You practice with easy problems. Then you get into more challenging problems, and you have to do a wide variety of problems to get better at this stuff. There are no shortcuts, but all of you can do this stuff. Okay. But if anyone is out there has been saying, hey, it's easy, you could just take shortcuts. You don't have to do that. Don't do this. I'm not going to listen. That's the wrong way. And don't tell yourself that. Don't get overconfident. Like, hey, look at me. I'm solving these easy equations. I must be a certified professional expert in algebra. Not so quick. There are much, much more difficult problems for you to try. Okay, so with that being said, I definitely wish you all the best in your mathematics adventures. Thank you for your time and have a great day.